Hey, Dr. Derek Nielsen, Kaizen Physical Therapy. Today I want to talk about pain, but I want to give two specific areas people don't think about when you're thinking about pain. Okay, for examples throughout the video, I'm just going to talk about low back pain since it's so common. When you have low back pain, you typically think about, okay, when does it hurt? Does it hurt sitting? Does it hurt bending forward? Does it hurt bending back, twisting? Does it hurt squatting? Those are obvious. So when it hurts is obvious because it just sends a signal to the brain and says, ow, I hurt. Okay, but what isn't so obvious is about the changes it makes in the brain itself when it's been occurring for, a while, 3, 4, 5 months, and so on. The other thing that isn't so obvious is biomechanics, how it changes the way we move, okay, and how it changes the entire system. So let's talk about the brain first. So how it can change in the brain, and again, this takes a little bit longer than pain changing how you move. So you have something called the homunculus. What it is it's a representation within your brain that gives representation to each body part. So within your brain you have a representation of your hand. You have representation of the wrist, elbow, everything, and so on and so forth. Now, the more you use a certain body part, the bigger the area, the bigger the representation in your brain it gives. Okay, so that's why your hands are a lot more sensitive than your elbow. Or, your tongue is very sensitive, your face is very sensitive, your lips are very sensitive, is because the representation within the brain is bigger than your arm. Okay, let me show. I actually have a image of that. Look at this guy. So mainly the guy on the right is what I want to talk about, that funky looking guy. So you see how the lips and the tongue and the face and the hand and the feet are so much bigger. So what that's showing us is just a representation within the brain that those areas are more sensitive. Okay, the sensory input to the brain is a lot better than anywhere else. So what can happen when pain exists for a long period of time is these areas, what is called is cortical smudging. And an area where the pain is at can spread into an adjacent area of the body. So what you have is typically the hand, the area of the body that represents the hand within the brain is next to the area of the body that represents the wrist, and so on. Okay, so when we have pain, let's give low back pain for example. When you have low back pain for a long time, within the brain it can start smudging into other adjacent areas. So low back pain can become hip pain, or low back pain can become mid back pain. That's why pain can spread as a result of within the brain. Okay. Now again, that takes a little bit longer. So the pain has to be felt for a while for cortical smudging to start occurring. But another area people don't typically think about is biomechanics, how pain changes movement. So let's continue with low back pain, and when I see a patient, I take them through a bunch of movements, head to toe, and see how they're moving, see what's painful, see what's not. And then what I see is, let's say, low back pain, left-sided, let's say the back pain is on the left side. What I see with single leg stance, for example, so you're supposed to hold this for 10 seconds, eyes open, then hold it 10 seconds, eyes closed. Well, usually what happens is the side of the pain that it's on, so left side here, the balance is less than on the right side. And the balance is worse. Okay, and that's regardless of if they feel pain with the activity or if they feel pain not doing the activity. Okay, I don't know if I said that. So if they feel pain or not when they're lifting their leg up and holding this, okay, their balance is typically worse regardless of if they feel pain or not. Okay, and what that is it changes the entire system. It changes the way sensation, it changes the way it's felt, and it changes the output. So input to the brain, and it also changes the output to the system. So therefore, balance decreases because the input's worse, output's worse. Okay, the other area why pain can spread from low back pain to hip pain, low back pain to knee pain, low back pain to mid back pain, and so on, is because it changes biomechanics. When we change the input of the system and we change the output of the system, it changes the way muscles function with one another, it changes the way joints slide and glide with one another. When something is changed like that, okay, over a period of time, other areas become painful. Okay, so that's why, those are two reasons why pain can spread. It can spread because of smudging in the brain, which takes longer, or it can change because your biomechanics change, your movement changes. Pain changes the input to the brain, pain changes output to the muscles and joints. And when we change those, pain can spread to other areas. Now the point I want to make is it really is regardless of whether it's painful with the movement or not. So this is why I advocate for people to go and seek out a professional healthcare provider that can help them with pain regardless of if they're having pain with the movement that they're performing. So let's say if you go to the gym and you have low back pain, but it doesn't hurt with a bench press, or it doesn't hurt with lunges, it doesn't hurt with squats, okay? But it does change the system. I just want you to know that. It does change the system. It changes the way you move. So even though if you don't have pain with those movements, oftentimes your movement has changed and the biomechanics have changed. And later on down the line, it can prove to be faulty and you end up with pain somewhere else in the system because your movement changed. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. That's why it's so important to find a provider who can look at movement from head to toe and listen to your story. Because oftentimes the source of pain is just a symptom. It's not a dysfunction. What we want to do is find out where the dysfunction is coming from. So with low back pain, usually it's just a symptom. I see many times where people who have low back pain, their backs move great. What's happening is their hips or their mid-back isn't moving well enough, so the low back's being called upon to do more work than it should, and then it says out. So if we don't treat the hips, we don't treat the mid-back, we can get you out of pain, but it's undoubtedly, if you keep continuing to perform the tasks you were doing before that caused the pain in the first place, it's going to come back. Okay? Let me know if you have any questions. Thanks so much.